Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. I hope your week is going well. Over here, we're still in the middle of planning this trip to Panama, but I gotta say, we have 7 out of 8 weeks of our Airbnbs booked. Now, I'm not someone who's done a lot of traveling before, so figuring out like what cities to go to, how long to stay, how to coordinate dates, it was quite the job. But I gotta say, one thing that we really did for ourselves this time is I said, if we're gonna travel and we're gonna just do this immersive cultural experience and go and live in another country for 2 months, I'm doing it with an ocean view. So we made sure that both of the Airbnbs that we are staying at have beautiful ocean views because I just have this vision of waking up and it being beautiful and sunny and stretching on the deck and maybe recording a podcast episode or two. Like, this is something that I really envision. So we definitely got the water views, but all of that is coming down. We also have this massive list of things we have to think about beforehand. So we went through and organized it. We actually divided everything up into all of the different months and what needs to get done by month all the way up to our trip. So my organization and planning brain is having a field day organizing this because when you have an overwhelming task like planning a 2-month trip, when you've never really done much travel before, the thing I keep reminding myself is I can only solve one problem at a time. And if I don't know how to do this, or I don't know where to rent a car or how to get car insurance in a foreign country, I'm going to figure it out one step at a time. So that's where we are on the Panama trip right now. Today's episode, though, is about how to get more out of your downtime. And no, I'm not going to tell you to go on a 2-month trip to Panama. I think that'll be for another episode. But what I want to talk to you about today specifically is that downtime, that me time, that time that you carve out or hopefully are carving out for yourself in the week so that you can really reset and recharge and so that you can show up like the entrepreneur you want to be, the parent you want to be in your life. So today we're going to be talking about how to make your downtime feel more restorative. Now, the idea for this podcast episode was actually spawned from a reel that I put on Instagram. Now, at the date of recording, we are just under 500,000 views. And I have met so many wonderful people and new people in my community from this reel. And having it gone viral, one of the things I'm starting to see is, with all the comments that are coming on this reel all the time, I'm really starting to get an inside perspective of how people view downtime, the struggles they have with it, the blocks that they don't even know they have. And so in this episode today, I'm going to share a little bit of a story, what went into, saying what I said in the reel, and sharing some of these blocks that I think we have, and then in general, observations and lessons perspective shifts I'd really love you to get out of this. So again, we're always tying it back to your business. Why do we need downtime, right? Like, isn't that the opposite of being productive? No, we need downtime because part of why we started this business in the first place is to have that time freedom to use it on the things we love. But somewhere along the way, we've done less and less of the things that we love in order to pursue our business, to hit the monetary goals, the number of clients, the size of our business, the number of team members. And we just really lose sight of why we're alive in the first place, and that's to do things we love and things we enjoy. And then if you've had kids at all, like we have, it is not only just involved in your business, but now we have little humans to raise, and we're trying to squeak out little bits of downtime here and there. But I think, over the years now, Hannah's is 3.5 already. I've really been able to find my groove in terms of getting downtime and feeling really recharged and relaxed and refreshed on a regular basis. So after I bust through some of these perspectives and myths and just offer you some different insights, then I'm going to tell you how I think about my downtime that makes it feel so rewarding. But first, we're going to start with a story about what I'm even going to be talking about in this reel. And I am going to play it for you on the podcast because I want you to have the full context. But in general, what I'm talking about in this episode or this reel is a conversation that I had with a client. She came into one of our sessions and she's like, I am so exhausted at the end of my day. Like I'm the CEO. She's got 2 businesses that she's running and she's just so wiped out all the time that she just needs to zone out. She wants to not think. She wants to just melt into the couch and watch Netflix until it is time for bed and just get to the next day where she can wake up and do it all over again. But she was telling me like, yeah, but I'm sitting here and I'm like watching stuff that like I don't even really care about. And I'm also scrolling on my phone and I don't like how I feel. And I want to get off the couch at 8:30 because I want to be in bed and sleeping by 9. But I just can't stop watching TV. And all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock, 10:30, and I need to wake up at 5. And she's in this cycle of exhaustion where she's not getting to bed on time. So she's not getting good, high quality sleep. So she's waking up tired, which is leading to her exhaustion, which is causing her to collapse onto the couch and just escape with some Netflix, right? Like this is an ongoing cycle that she's experiencing. And it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. What came first, the staying up late and disrupting the bedtime, or the exhaustion that's leading to the Netflix, right? And so one of the questions I asked her is I was like, why do you need so much downtime? Like if you're, hitting the couch at 6, you're not getting up to 10. Why is it that you think that you need so much downtime right now? And she said, honestly, it feels like I never really get to relax. And I tell myself, I'm just going to lay here for one more episode. I'm just going to watch until the next, title screen rolls up, or now I'm halfway through. I'm just going to go to the end of the episode. And like, it doesn't matter how much I watch. Even though I tell myself, I'm just going to do this for me, one more episode, I don't feel any better and I'm just too tired to get up. And I was like, I got it. So what is it that you want to feel when you're watching the Netflix? Like when you sit down, when you're exhausted at the end of the day, what is it that you're intending to get out of this Netflix watching? And she says to me, like, I want to feel relaxed. And I want to feel calm. Like I just want to feel like I've recharged from my day, like I had a break from running my business, from dealing with my team. And I was like, awesome. I love that. Relaxed, calm, recharged, great. Now, does Netflix for 4 hours make you feel this way? And she goes, no, it doesn't. I feel just as drained when I get up as when I lay down. And I have asked many, many, many clients over the years since I've had this conversation with her, and the answer is no, meaning like when we just escape and watch TV for 3 or 4 hours at the end of the night and attempt to feel better, and we want to feel recharged and relaxed, and we're not getting it from Netflix, then we really want to start exploring why you aren't feeling the way you want to feel from this, right? And what is it you're actually chasing? Like, what is the intention of what you're going to be getting out of this downtime? If the goal is to feel like you got to recharge and you just had some downtime, but Netflix is not giving it to you, I always like to invite my clients then into this discussion of like, well, what would make you feel relaxed? What would make you feel calm, right? What would make you feel recharged? And I want you to hear me on this. I have nothing against Netflix. I have nothing against video games. I have nothing against scrolling on your phone. I do these things as well. However, if you're doing it with the intention of creating a better feeling for yourself and not feeling so exhausted and you're not getting it, then I invite in the question of whether you want to be spending all of that time on Netflix. And I kind of like to offer, well, if you were to take half of that time and still watch Netflix for the first half, but maybe with the second half, what could you put in that time instead that would make you feel more recharged, that would give you the feeling you're after? Everyone has a different feeling, right? Some people really just want to reboot, calm, zone out, whatever it might be. But if what you are doing is not giving you that feeling, this is your call to question that and change it, right? And when we start looking at, like, one of the questions I asked her is like, why do you feel like you need so much downtime? And she says, I don't really feel like I get to relax. Well, what if the only reason you need so much downtime in the first place is because what you're doing is not making you feel any better, right? Because when I talk to clients about why they're struggling with getting to bed on time, they're saying like, I want to start going to bed earlier. Like, I'd really like to be in bed by 10, but then they're up at 11:30 midnight watching Netflix. One of the things they always say is, well, like, that's my me time. When the kids go to sleep, like, what other time is for me? So I need this time. This is my time. And I don't disagree. We all need me time. But if we are cutting into our rest and our restorative time of sleep with this because we feel like we need so much of it, maybe the question is, why do we feel like we need so much of it? And if it's because we are not getting what we want out of it, this is, like I said, your invitation to maybe start inserting some activities into your me time that actually give you this feeling, right? And I'm going to share how I solve this and how I help my clients solve this, because many of us experience that. We just have this downtime and it just feels like it goes so fast. We don't enjoy it enough. We guilt ourselves about this, right? But I want you to listen into this reel. I'm going to play it for you. It's like 50 seconds long. It's for context, so you can see why it's so important, and why I'm sharing this story on the podcast episode. So I'm going to let you listen to this. People will say like, oh, the kids just went to bed, or I just finished cleaning up the house or walked the dog and I just need some time for me. I need to unwind, and then rolling episode after episode into Netflix or whatever it might be, video games, that goes into your sleep. But what I often ask my clients when we're going through this is I say to them, what are you trying to get out of this downtime? Like, what are you trying to feel? And they'll say like, oh, I just really want to feel relaxed. I just want to feel calm. I just want to feel like I don't have to think during my day. And then I ask them, okay, is the activities that you're putting in this time block giving you that feeling? Like when you get up from 4 episodes of Netflix or whatever it might be, do you feel relaxed? Do you feel calm? Do you feel present, or whatever it is you're after? And the answer is always no, right? So I'm looking at, in your downtime, are you including activities that make you feel the way you want to feel, or are you just escaping? Okay, so that was the reel. But the most interesting thing about this experience and having had a video go viral, like I said, was the comments, because it gave me such an insight into how our brains were working. And this is one of the reasons that I always love working with a coach or having someone else, to talk to about what's going on in my head, because it is so much easier to see like beliefs and blocks and things that are holding you back from the outside. But I want to read some of these comments to you, because I want to address some of the things in there, because they might be beliefs that you have. Now, I don't want you to see this as me saying the way you are doing it is wrong. I want you to see this as me offering up different options of stuff you can think, coming from someone who has a lot of downtime now and feels really good about it and doesn't deal with the guilt about it, right? So I'm gonna read this, but I thought it was really funny. You know how Instagram is, and you know how the world is. There, a handful of people in the comments genuinely took this as a personal attack on them, because I feel like sometimes when we see someone who has a different belief set, they do things different than us, or what they do directly challenges the way we live our life, instead of sometimes asking ourselves like, why do I feel so triggered in this? We go on the offensive. So some of these in here are definitely reflective of that. But it's interesting because that's the way some people respond. You would think it was directed directly at them. Anyways, I'm going to read some of these comments here, and then I want to discuss some of the perspective shifts that I would love to offer you based on what I think about this. So here are some of the comments. So one person said, my hope for my downtime is to feel nothing and do nothing. Life is so never ending that I need a chance to just do nothing. Escaping actually makes me feel nothing. And then someone else said, I don't know what else to do with the little energy I got left. Somebody said, I just want to do nothing, and that's the way I want to feel. Someone said, I'm escaping, but what's wrong with that? Someone said, escaping for sure, but the other ones take effort, and I have none of that left by that point. It's a vicious cycle. Someone said everything that was done during the day was purpose-driven and aimed at being productive. The me time, I think, is to quite literally and intentionally stay unproductive and have no end goal in mind. Someone said, I'm so busy taking care of myself, my wife, my kids, my employees, that I just need mindless entertainment. No thought, just to disconnect for an hour before I can tackle the next day's gauntlet. Someone said, trying to just not have to think and be alone by scrolling. Someone says, yes, 100% escape. It's something to quiet the anxiety buzz with no effort. A couple more. Dang, we have to have a plan for downtime and free time now. Everyone is trying to over-optimize these days. Just no one is living. Can't just be, have to be doing. Someone said, unfortunately, what I need to do is relax and stress relief after a long day at work and then dealing with the kids, but I can't do it. Last one. I'm escaping for sure. I don't want to feel anything during that time. I want to be brainless and zombified for an hour or two of scrolling on Instagram. So you can see that these comments have a theme. And keep in mind, there were tons of positive comments on this video, but I pulled these ones out in general because these are sometimes things I hear from my clients, and I want to offer you different perspectives on these. If you listen to any of those and are like, yeah, that feels true for me too, consider that something else might also be true. So here's a couple things that I want to share from my perspective. There were a lot of comments where people associated a fulfilling leisure time with being productive. That if you didn't just not think and you zoned out and you just escaped, that the alternative meant that you were being highly productive with every single moment. Now, I think this is super interesting because when I look at my downtime, one of my favorite things to do is read fiction. Now, there is nothing about reading fiction in my perspective that is productive. I don't learn anything that I'm going to apply to my business or my life. Reading a fluffy beach read does not make me a better human being in the sense that I have now grown. I have bigger skills. My business is further along. I'm a better parent. It doesn't actually move anything forward. It is literally just time spent when I get to the end of my fiction book. I will close it. I will never look at it again. It was literally the time that just went off into the abyss. So it's interesting that we think about using our time to create the feeling we want, because for me, reading creates relaxation and peace and presence and calm, right? And that to me, reading is not productive. So I really want you to start to look as if you think that actively taking inventory of what's going on in your leisure time and choosing things that create a better life for yourself, if you have defined that as being productive and you don't want to be productive all the time, it totally makes sense why you feel stuck in this loop. But I want to break that. Fulfilling leisure time does not mean you have to be moving a goal forward. It can literally just be something that creates a feeling you want, right? Second observation I had is I'm finding with a lot of these thoughts that we're not really understanding what we're escaping from and what that's a symptom of. Like when we think I just want to escape, I just want to turn my brain, I don't want to think, I just need to get away from my life because it's so overwhelming. I love this conversation and I love to ask, okay, what are you escaping? What is it that you are trying to tune out of? Why is it that you don't want to think, right? And hear me on this. There is nothing wrong with escapism as long as you know that you are doing it. And it's not just defaulting because it's all you have the energy for, or you're moving away from a negative feeling in your life, right? When you are choosing to escape, do you recognize that that is what you are doing, or are you just defaulting to those things because it's all you have the energy for? If you had the energy, would you choose something different, right? And for me, I know the difference between when I'm intentionally watching TV with my husband, if we're settling in for an episode of Survivor. We love watching Survivor. We sit on the couch together. We have our people we're rooting for. We're pausing it. We're having conversation. It's really a point of connection. But I also know that feeling on those days where I am wiped out, where I just throw on an episode of Real Housewives of something and I know what it feels like because you're also on your phone. You're not really paying attention. You're just trying to escape. I know the difference, right? And the difference for me is that escaping never feels good. Meaning when I get up from that episode of Housewives, an hour is gone. I didn't even feel like I got a recharge. I wish I would have read my book instead. I wish I would have had a nap. I wished I would have sat outside, but instead I just lost an hour to TV or an hour to scrolling Instagram. We've all had that before when you look up from your phone and you're like, crap. That's 20 minutes. How did I spend that much time on my phone or watching TikTok or whatever it is, So number one, I think you need to know what you're the difference between when you're escaping and when you're choosing it intentionally, because I don't think that's when I love to choose Netflix. When I'm actually catching up on comments from something I love on a post or a blog or a YouTube video versus that's all I have the energy for, right? And the second thing on this is escaping never solves the problem. It never solves what you're escaping from. So if you feel drained and exhausted and you escape with video games, you escape with Netflix, and it's not creating the calm, the relaxation that you tell yourself it's going to, what happens is as soon as the escaping is done, that feeling is still there. You didn't actually escape it. You just kicked it down the road. So as soon as you come up from your Insta scrolling, that anxiety that you were escaping is there. That exhaustion, that feeling of fatigue, right? And so when a lot of these comments were saying, what's wrong with escaping? Nothing, as long as you know that's what you're doing. But if you're doing it in attempts to just escape, I always wonder, why not address what you're escaping from? If you're tired and exhausted all the time, why not solve that problem? Why not look at the quality of your sleep, what foods you're eating, if you could exercise better. And yes, I know that is more work, but for me, a fulfilling life that I enjoy is worth more work, right? And so I always look at it as an invitation to create a life that doesn't have you escaping from it all of the time, right? Like if you're constantly needing to escape or numb out from your life, I love to look at that as the opportunity to create a life that is more exciting and I don't want to escape from all the time. Like I want to be present for it, right? And yes, it takes work. I know that. But like I said, it's worth it. So the third theme that came up was that people are more intentional about their work than their leisure time. Now, what this means is we plan our work days, we plan what we're going to do in our business, we plan all the week long when we're going to do our grocery shopping, all of that, but we don't actually plan the time that we're doing all of this for. Like you're building your business to enjoy time with family and loved ones and to do what you want to do with your time, but you don't actually plan that time. That time is just default leftover time that you fill it kind of with the stuff you cram in there, right? Like, I don't know. I guess I'll watch TV because I didn't think about it. And I find that's one of the things when I work with my clients and I ask them like, hey, what do you think about removing screens 15 or 30 minutes before bedtime? What about an hour? One of the first things they'll ask me is like, I don't know what to do with that time if I'm not on my phone or watching TV, right? And I often find that we just don't pay attention to our leisure life the same way we do our work life. We don't actually think about what we want to fill that time with. We're not intentional with it. Cal Newport, I forget whether it was in his book Digital Minimalism or Deep Work. I think it was Deep Work. He talked about this idea of a day within a day, meaning if you look at the time outside of your work as its own day, that is within the 24-hour calendar day that we plan for our work. If you look at that as a day that you want to plan and be intentional about, and it's a whole separate day, what would you plan in it? Like if you could fill your time with anything, what would it be, right? And I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, it would not be doom scrolling on Instagram, right? And if we're not actually intentional about filling that time, it will be filled for us with whatever we have the energy left for, not realizing that those default things are usually drains on our energy. But when you are intentional about it, like going for a family walk, maybe playing a board game, I don't know, doing a Sudoku puzzle, whatever your thing is, gardening, walking the dog, sitting outside after dinner, those are things that recharge you. Those are things that help with the positive cycle of building this life that you want, right? And then I think when we talk about being more intentional with that leisure time, I just think that where we get stuck is that most people don't know how to switch their brain off of work without filling it with something like TV or phone. We don't know how to just be with quiet. Our brain is either chattering about work or it's being distracted, right? Like, what do we do if it's just me and my thoughts? How do I switch it off? I don't know how, right? Or how do I change my internal emotional environment? Meaning like if I'm feeling stressed out or frustrated with the kids, or if I'm feeling really worn down from the day, like they don't have that skill set yet to tap into that inner emotional environment. They don't know how to change that, right? And we find we're just living our life on default. Another observation I have, I've got 2 more, is that I had some people leave comments that they feel guilty for taking the downtime. And a lot of this comes from either beliefs, like maybe your family passed you down, maybe you had a mom or a dad or a caretaker that, really praised productivity and always getting stuff done and don't be lazy and don't lay around. And some people find it really hard to break out of that, right? Like if they just take time for me, or if I take time away from my wife and kids, then I'm not being a good husband. I'm not being a good dad, a mom, a wife, or whatever it is, right? A partner. And I think sometimes we think that we have this story in our head that I'm not good if I don't do this. Those are optional thoughts, right? And the other interesting thing we like to do is we really get our self-worth tied up with productivity, meaning we tell ourselves the more I get done, the more I do, the better of a person I am. Therefore, if I take downtime and just enjoy it, then I must not be worth as much. I must not be as good at my job. I must not be valuable. Right? And when we don't distract ourselves and escape with TV and phones, then we hear that chatter. And the only way to quiet that chatter sometimes is to escape, right? But this comes back to why not do the work it takes on coaching your brain, on changing those thoughts so that you don't need to escape, right? And the last thing I saw that came up over and over again in perspective shift I could offer you is that this exhaustion you feel, this gauntlet. Somebody said the word gauntlet, like I've got to do the gauntlet all over again the next day and I'm so exhausted and taking care of my team and all that stuff. It's interesting because we act as if this stuff is outside of our control, right? Like as if it is something that we are just to be subjected to the rest of our lives. But if we think about it, like we get to do all of these things, right? We get to choose the thoughts and the stories and the sentences we have about the things that happen in our life. We are not victim to our circumstances, right? There are things that are happening in the world, but you'll find over and over again that the people that feel most fulfilled and enjoy their life are the people that decide to use their brain to change their perception of what is going on, right? If you have a full day of meetings and you cannot change that, what you have control over is how you think about it. And how you think about it is often creating how you feel about that, right? And if you know that you want to get better sleep or you want to feel more energized or you want to have better focus, like my entire podcast has so many episodes dedicated to helping you with things like this. I have a program that will handhold and walk you through this process called Becoming Limitless. I'm available on Instagram. Send me a DM with your question. Like there are resources for you. But we have to decide to help ourselves first, right? So let's talk about it. How are we going to make ourselves and our downtime feel more restorative? Number one, we need to figure out what you're escaping from and solve that. If it is overwhelm, figure out why you are overwhelmed. What is the thought you are having? Solve for it. If it is loneliness, what can you do to solve this, right? If you are feeling stressed out, what can you do to solve this? If you're feeling tired, what can you do to solve this? And also, this is not to say that every negative feeling needs to be solved. Sometimes you can just let it be there. You can just feel anxious and stressed out and still make these positive choices anyways. And that is not a problem if you want to do that. But if you also want to go through life and have solutions for this, figure out what you're escaping from. Solve that first. Second, ask yourself, what do you want to feel? And I know we talked about this at the top of the episode, but genuinely, what do you want to feel with your life? Like, do you want to feel resilient? Do you want to feel like you had some relaxing time? Recharge? Like, what is it that you want to get out of your downtime? Narrow in on it and then figure out what gives you that feeling. I love reading. I talked about that. It makes me feel so relaxed. I feel present. I love cozying up. I love having a cup of tea or coffee or a blanket or sitting in the sun. Like it's an experience for me. And the way I can best describe it is, if you're a coffee drinker, when you have that hot cup of coffee in your hand in the morning and you take the first sip and it's not the taste, but a little bit of it is, but it's mostly the experience of it, right? Reading is that for me. It is not productive. It doesn't move me forward, but it brings me that presence that I seek. Some people like puzzles. I've had clients that like gardening, walking with their partners or families, taking their dog out, exercising. Like there are endless things. And if you're struggling, I want you to ask yourself, like, what did I love to do as a kid? Tap into that. Because as kids, we don't have all these thoughts about what we should or shouldn't do for downtime. We just do what fulfills us, right? We don't distract as kids. So for me, I was a huge reader as a kid and I still am now. So go back to your childhood. Did you like to draw? Did you like to paint? Like, what did you like to do? And can you bring more of that into your life now? Then I want you to notice while you're doing these activities, what are you thinking during these activities, or what are you thinking about these activities? I'm going to give you a good example. So think of cooking, for example. If I'm cooking and I'm thinking, this is so much work. I hate cooking. There's such a mess. Of course, it's going to feel like a chore, right? But if you're thinking during this, like, I love cooking. I love chopping. I love the sounds. I like the music I play while doing it. It's an experience. I love tasting the things as I'm cooking them. Like, do you see how you could take something as neutral as cooking and have two entirely different experiences based on what you're thinking about these activities or what you're thinking during them? I want you to pay attention because you want to find activities, and then I want you to be intentional about what you're thinking about them. Now, this is not to say choose something that you don't enjoy and then force yourself to be Pollyanna and happy about it, but what are the things where those things come naturally? What are the things that when you feel them or when you're doing them, it becomes really easy to feel present. It becomes easy to feel joy or recharged or whatever it is like that. And I want you to notice that and then practice thinking those things. So if you notice you always think like, I love reading, and you just have that thought, think it. If you think, cooking makes me feel so present, think that. You really need to tap into your brain, because the biggest skill that you can ever master is the ability to direct your thinking and manage your focus. That's something I teach in the entire resilient framework within my Becoming Limitless program. The entire section is developed, and it's called the Limitless Mind for a reason, because if you can control that, then you can control your emotional state and your brain. And this is when you get to start tapping in to really enjoying your downtime. Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you one more. It's kind of a quirky tip on like what makes me really enjoy my downtime and my life. And I didn't know it was a thing that I was doing until I saw it on YouTube. Do you ever find that like you're on YouTube and you're like, oh, there's a video on this. I've always wondered about this. And then you go down the rabbit hole and all of a sudden they're showing you like 300 videos on that. And you're like, this is a thing. How do people wow, I didn't know this many people were into this. Okay, so that's what this is. Now it's this idea of romanticizing your life. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of videos about it. Just to give you an idea, romanticizing your life is like giving it a little bit of a fluff in your head, so to speak, and to give you that experience that you want. I'm going to give you some good examples. Okay, so over the summer, I love reading fluffy book reads. Like I've been talking to you about that this episode, that reading is that thing for me. So about 2 books ago, I picked a book called Hotel Nantucket because I love the vibe of a book that's about like a bed and breakfast or a hotel, but they're set on a beach. And this book, it was Ellen Hildebrand. It wasn't even that the book was that good, but it was just about this experience of these guests coming to this restored hotel and the experience. And they were describing the decor, and everyone was so relaxed and on vacation there. And it was just the fluffiest beach read. And every time that I sat with my book, I felt like I was escaping to Nantucket, that the fresh white hotel towels were there in my bathroom. And like, you know what I mean? It's so fun because when I read stuff like this, like it makes me want to fluff up the pillows in my bathroom, or the pillows, the towels in my bathroom. It makes me want to make my bed more often, give my bedroom a hotel spa vibe, right? Like I love just romanticizing my life, reading about the experiences that I want, right? And another one, like music is so good for this. Like sometimes I'm in a piano music. Sometimes I'm in like a Cuban music when I'm really wanting to get in the vibe for Panama, for example. I know Panama and Cuba are different, but like that's kind of that whole vibe for me of like music just makes me feel like I'm in a different location and that maybe I'm on a little bit of a getaway. Organizing my closet does something for me. I love opening it and just seeing how neat it is. It aligns with who I want to be. Making my bed, like I said, and just getting into a freshly made bed at the end of the night. I love it. It feels luxurious. I love sliding my legs in the sheets and pulling them up over my knees, like romanticizing your life. Another one, sitting at the top of a hike. Like me and my husband, we went on a hiking date a couple of weeks ago, and we went up to the top of this huge hill that we climbed, and we sat there and we overlooked, and there's the marsh and there's all the landscape, and the river was nearby. I could feel the sun on my skin. I just focused on how happy and fulfilled I was feeling and thinking about how grateful I was to be able to move my body. And you know what I mean? It's this idea of just making your life feel good in your head, romanticizing your life. And so every time I escape to my book, I'm on the beaches in Nantucket, or I'm in a really goofy rom-com, or whatever it might be. So this is something that has really helped. When I'm with my girls, I love just like being as present as I can and trying to be a good mom. And I want to explore with them and see the world from their point of view. This whole romanticizing your life. It's what pulls the presence out of you. And I'm going to say that again. Find things that pull presence out of you. This is how you create feelings of enjoyment and leisure and relaxation and feeling recharged. This is how to get more out of your downtime, because you are never going to be able to romanticize your life if you are escaping through Instagram scrolling, if you are losing hours at a time to Netflix and it never gives you the experience you're after. If it does, have at it. Finding what works for you is important, and for some people that'll be Netflix. But find something that pulls the presence out of you. And if it feels like work at the beginning, ask yourself this: so what? So what if it feels like a little more work to go on a walk? So what if it feels like a little more work to do a workout? These are the things that create the life we want, and the exercise and the energy that we want that makes it all feel so rewarding. So my call to action to you this week is to find something that pulls the presence out of you. Find something that you can just immerse yourself in, that brings you back to your childhood, that makes you feel the way you want to feel. And I'll wrap up this by saying, like, if you've loved this episode, if you've gotten some good ideas, or if you've loved any episode you've listened to, can you do me a favor and leave me a podcast review with what you love, what you'd like to see more of? I literally just last episode was sharing how I found a way to see the podcast episodes, all the reviews from other countries. I've only ever been seeing the ones from Canada, and I had a moment full on tears of gratitude. You don't know how much this means to me, and also how much it helps the visibility of my show. But I would love, I would really appreciate it if you've gotten any value out of this, or you know what else is great? Share it on your Instagram or your social media. Tag me. Let me know that you're seeing it. And I love resharing stuff like that. I hope you have a beautiful week, and it is full of downtime that you feel good about. And I will talk to you next time. Bye. Hey, if you're hearing me right now, you might be an entrepreneur who feels like this.
Every single thing I had was going into my businesses, and there was no room left for me. And that means I wasn't eating right. My stress levels were just off the charts.
And I was getting these headaches, and I just felt like my health was not where it could be, where it should be.
Every day I woke up really tired, and actually all day long I was tired, and I couldn't understand why. And this was really in the way of my productivity.
I gained 20 pounds in 1 year, and that's mostly because of work stress. I've never seemed to have the control over my own health.
This podcast will help you with all of that. I'm sharing everything I know and everything I'm learning about how to get healthy, optimize your focus, and eliminate brain fog for faster business growth. But if you want someone to take all of these strategies, create a simple plan, and help you bring it to life with weekly coaching, I'd love to work with you in my Becoming Limitless program. This is the high-touch intensive program that I have created to coach entrepreneurs like you to get back on track with their health, get really good sleep, and start waking up feeling well-rested.
The biggest impact was really around overall well-being and sleep. So I started tracking my sleep, and it was very data-driven what we did. And I saw measurable progress and improvement week to week, month to month. Now I prioritize sleep. I have my whole family on a better sleep schedule.
You'll get my expert eyes on what you eat and help you develop a simple plan that sticks.
Well, she helped me really figure out what works for me nutrition-wise. It's not just like some cookie cutter plan. It's let's figure out what works best for your body and just optimize everything so I can show up at my best for my family, for my business, and just feel good.
And of course, have you showing up to your business with clear, focused thinking so you can scale your business faster.
Both my companies have grown over the last 2 years.
I'm waking up more energized, and I'm able to be more productive in my business.
You're going to learn how to optimize your brain and your body using a combination of wearable technology, accountability, science-based biohacks, and weekly personalized coaching. I'm not only going to share what to do, but I'm going to teach you how to be consistent and develop the self-discipline that keeps this going for the rest of your life.
coaching is where the magic really happens, because without coaching, you'll end up right where you started, because those blocks and those underlying patterns that got you here are still there. You have to really rewire the way you think, and that's what Tanessa helps you do. And it's good to have somebody who's got your back, who will hold you accountable and who will help you work through this process together.
I help you become a human being instead of just a human doing. You get to have your health and a successful business too. It doesn't have to be a choice.
So she really taught me a lot about how to balance being an entrepreneur and a business owner and also not sacrifice my health.
Yep, you can use the gold mine of information in these free episodes of the Becoming Limitless podcast to help you take control of your health, and you will feel more vibrant. But if you want, you can outsource your health to me and put your brain power back on growing your business. If you're ready to commit to upgrading your health and start feeling more energized within the next couple of months, click the link in the show notes and book in a consultation call with me.
My life today is not even recognizable with the life I had a year ago. And that's because of everything that Tanessa has put into the program. So if you're on the fence, get off the fence. Your future self will thank you for it.
Highly suggest working with Tanessa.
I would highly suggest doing a consultation call with her, doing her program, seeing what she's about, and seeing if she's a good fit for you, because she is definitely committed to her clients and she definitely knows what she's talking about.
So go work with Tanessa. She's really amazing and she's going to help you get your energy back.
Hit the link in the show notes and book in to talk with me about your health, and I'll see you on our first call.